Oh, here it goes.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the 2Smart Dummies podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marcus.
And I'm your host, B. Reed.
Brady, what's up, man?
Whole bunch of nothing, man. Got some sad news in the NBA about David Stern.
Terrible news, man. Shout out to Commissioner Stern. Had a brain hemorrhage at dinner last week. Sad thought, man. Sounds like he's in critical condition. You always worry about that with older people. So, sad thought.
Yeah, at his age, it's going to be kind of shaky. The lucky part is they caught it soon enough where they can actually try to do something about it. It wasn't just total brain damage, it doesn't sound like. But anytime you have bleeding on the brain, that's a pretty serious issue.
Yeah, and, people think about the last few years of David Stern's run and well, really, I don't know, probably the last 15 years as the turn of the century with a lot of the cheating and the scandals and all the stuff that we talked about in the last pod. But what people don't realize is that David Stern is actually a pioneer. People talk about Michael and Magic and Larry saving the NBA, but David Stern is on that Mount Rushmore of why we have the current NBA that we have now. So,
yeah, I'm not sure if he isn't the Mount Rushmore. I mean, he might be the mountain and everybody else is putting on him. I mean, without him, because if you think about it, we know about, the TV contracts that he put in place and all of that stuff with, Magic and Larry Bird. But even before then, he was a lawyer for the NBA. So he was big in the ABA merger, negotiating those deals, getting a lot of those teams out of contracts. He was behind the scenes of a lot of things that happened in the late 60s, 70s, Players Union and all that stuff. So He's been a part of the NBA for 50, 60 years?
Yep. And when he took over the NBA, they were tape delaying the finals games. This was when Magic and Bird were still young in the league, and you had Lakers and Celtics finals. So he really did usher in a new era, and everyone should really be thankful for David Stern, because without him, we have no Adam Silver or current NBA model. So,
yeah, man. Sad news, but we have to move on to other things happening in the NBA.
Man, let me ask you something. LeBron James said that he doesn't believe load management. Basically, he's like, if I'm healthy, I'm going to play. He was kind of taking a shot at the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. And Doc Rivers came back and said, you know what? Well, the Lakers just do whatever LeBron says they're going to do. That's their philosophy. What do you make of that? Is it good for this? I guess if you want to call Lakers and Clippers a rivalry, I mean, I don't think they probably don't see it as that. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't think the Lakers and Clippers can be a rivalry until the Clippers start winning some championships. I know this version of the Lakers haven't won any championships, and they hadn't won anything since '09, '10. But still, the Clippers had never won shit. So They have to earn their respect before they can even be considered a rivalry. But what LeBron's talking about with load management, this is the same dude that's fighting for lower games. So he's saying, if I'm healthy, I'm going to play. But then you're complaining about the amount of games you're playing in. So everyone handles it a different way. You can't tell them. Obviously, it worked for Kawhi last year. So you can't tell him how to handle his body. No one tells you how to handle your body. There are people saying that you could have played last year when the Lakers, and that you were just letting them, lose. So nobody knows what's going on with other people's bodies.
Yeah, but if you're Doc Rivers, y'all doing the same thing over there. Okay, Kawhi is running the organization, Paul George running the organization, so you can't really just take a shot and be like, well, they ain't got no backbone over there.
I don't know if Paul George is running the organization. You might have went a little too far there.
Well, certainly Kawhi. So,
as he should, he's the king.
Let's slow down, all right? Slow down.
He snatched the crown from LeBron's hand.
I think he's the best player in the NBA, hands down right now. I know a lot of people will still say it's Giannis. I think it's Kawhi.
You can't give Giannis that respect. Like, everybody else is held to the standard of, going to the championship, winning the championship. Until Giannis is able to get his team to the championship, he could be the best talent the most talented player in the NBA. He can't be the best player in the NBA. Not in my opinion.
I agree. So Kevin Garnett went on the Bill Simmons podcast this week, and they were promoting. He and Adam Sandler were promoting their new movie, Uncut Gems,
Which I want to see.
It does look good. I like a lot of Adam Sandler's serious roles. His other shit I don't even pay attention to, but this movie looks like it has some potential, so I'll probably check it out. But KG kind of talked about the LeBron era and how, you know, they broke LeBron, they forced him out of Cleveland, and basically that he still is not cool with LeBron or Dwayne Wade or any of that. So, did you get a chance to listen to that interview?
Yeah, I listened to bits and pieces of it, and I agree with him for the most part. I mean, they did break LeBron. If you remember the whole reason for LeBron going to Miami, we look at LeBron as like this great winner and this great champion, but he essentially quit in that fourth quarter.
Oh,
I mean, I know he had a triple-double, but he was not involved in that game in the fourth quarter. And I'm talking about in what? It would be 2009, that semifinals game against the Celtics. They were throwing 5 dudes at him, forcing those role players to beat him, and said if LeBron wants to beat me by himself or if he wants to pass the ball to those other players, we're going to allow him to do that. They kind of played on LeBron making the right play. And what happened is, for a couple of games, you know, a couple of shots, you know, Mo Williams, they're going to hit those shots. But what happens when you got to take 20 shots, Mo Williams? Now, Mo Williams is a bad example because I seen him do 30 and 10 with the Clippers for about half a season. But, you know, those other dudes couldn't carry the team, and it frustrated LeBron. LeBron left and went to Miami, so I feel like he got a point. And he's old school, you know. He was mad at Ray Allen. They didn't talk to Ray Allen after he left.
Yep.
So, yeah.
But you know what? I think we've gotten further and further. I mean, like you said, it's been about a decade now since those Celtics teams, but I think they're one of the more underrated teams. They only won 1 title, got to 2, but you know, I think they are one of the more underrated teams in history, and how smart they were. And if you think about it, they really should have won 2 titles.
Yeah, that team had a ton of potential. The problem was when they got together, they were already up in age.
Yep.
But
KG was just about to break down.
Yeah, so you had 1 year KG had a knee injury. Then that was the year they did make the finals. So they won the finals. That next year, I believe KG got hurt. So then they didn't go to the finals. They ended up getting beat by the Orlando Magic when Dwight Howard was at his prime.
Yep.
They come back with a healthier team. They go to the finals, and they probably should win if Kendrick Perkins doesn't get hurt. Their best post defender gets hurt. I mean, that's big when you're playing against Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum. Once he got hurt.
I say that, but you also think that the Lakers, I think maybe the Lakers win that first title because they didn't have Andrew Bynum or Trevor Ariza. You know, so, and that was, I don't even think Kobe and Kobe and Powell had played a full season together. So, you know, they can say that they would have won that second one, and I believe that they probably would have, but I also think the Lakers probably win that first one if they had a fully healthy team.
I just remember in that last game, Kobe played horrible. I mean, I know it's Kobe's championship. He led the team.
6 for 24. But what people don't remember, Kobe grabbed 18 rebounds that game, though.
So that's my point. So at the point of you're Kobe and you're going 6 for 24 and you're grabbing 18 rebounds, you're making a decision. You gotta, at some point, Powell and Andrew Bynum was tearing them up in the middle, and so now you're blocking them out.
But that goes to how smart those Celtics teams were, because what they did was basically they bet on what Kobe, like you just said with LeBron, how they knew that LeBron was going to always make the right basketball play, and they were going to defend that. Yep. They did the same thing with Kobe. They knew Kobe was seldom going to make the right basketball play, and he was going to shoot, you know, over 3 people if he had to. And it wasn't until Phil Jackson was like, yo, we're about to lose if you keep playing this way. So while he was shooting 6 for 24, Kobe decided he did other things. He got 18 rebounds that game, and people don't remember that. So, yeah, he shot piss poor, but, I mean, he did what he had to do to win that game.
Yeah, he's gonna. It's theoretically it's still the right basketball play, because if they're leaving me one-on-one with somebody, Kobe should be taking the shot. It's just Kobe wasn't on. You know what I mean? He wasn't on that night. But he was, like you said, they were able to make up, get rebounds, and do some other things. We're going to get into that because this this part of the basketball revolution is about the Lakers, so I don't want to spend too much time on the Lakers. But
yeah, let's get to some of the.
I do agree, KG though.
Let's get to some of the trade rumors in the NBA right now. The Pelicans have made Drew Holiday available, which you and I talked about last week. About time.
No, they haven't. David Griffin was on TV yesterday and said that they haven't made him available. He claims that December 15th is the deadline for when any player that had just signed a contract this year can be traded. So Griffin was on in the broadcast yesterday, and he said that he was sitting down with Drew Holiday and told Drew Holiday that there will be rumors saying that they're making him available, or they should make him available, because December 15th had just passed. Now, he sounded believable, but I don't believe him. I think Drew Holiday is available.
I think so too. They're going to have to make some moves on that team. I mean, it kind of doesn't. And Drew Holiday is still a youngish guy, but and he doesn't seem like he's complained to this point about being there. JJ Redick, I can imagine, is not super happy right now, seeing as how he's never missed the playoffs in his career. And New Orleans is not going to be making the playoffs this year.
That's the funny part about it. They're saying that they're reluctant to trade JJ Redick, and I don't understand why. I mean, it seems like Drew Holiday would want to be there more than JJ Redick.
I'm sure JJ doesn't want to be there, so but maybe he does. I mean, who knows? But it seems like that would be the move to make for them, because the rest of their team is, other than Drew Holiday, is pretty young. So I don't think that OKC is going to move Chris Paul. I said that earlier this year. I don't think that he gets moved. That contract is just hard to move. I think there's places that we'd like to see him, but I don't think he gets moved before the deadline.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we had talked about before. I think that being able to move that Chris Paul contract to OKC was a pure favor to Russell Westbrook. Because otherwise, I don't see how you trade for that. Not with 2 years left on it. I know Miami was talking to OKC about trading for it, but they were trying to get Chris Paul to, take a year off the contract, or, forfeit a year, or add an option on the year, where they team option, where they can have opt out of the contract. He's not going to do that. He shouldn't. He's too old to be giving up $20 million. So
I still think Chris Paul gets moved next year. I just don't think he gets moved during the season.
No, next year, because then next year is a 1 year $20 million contract.
Yep.
It's a lot. No,
more. It's not 20. It's like $38 million.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Or it's 44. It's something crazy.
Yeah, it jumps, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah, the last year that contract is like $44 million, $38 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's a massive contract.
Oh man, yeah, but still, it's a cap hole. So I mean, you got teams like Atlanta. You could probably send Atlanta a first round pick to get somebody like Chris Paul, because it's just a $40 million cap hole for them.
Yep.
Just to hit a floor. So they'll be able to move it. It just depends on what type of assets they're trying to get. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to attach a pick to Chris Paul to move him this offseason.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. No one is going to be doing them a favor.
But I mean, they got the most picks in NBA history right now, so it should be no problem.
All the way through like 2025. So whatever.
They'll have no problem sending that pick to some desert island. So
yeah, and then as you and I talked about, D'Angelo Russell, I didn't think was going to get traded in the middle of the season. I thought the Warriors were picking him up because they wanted him, not to flip him. And I know a lot of people have kind of said the opposite, that they're just going to flip him. I don't think it made sense to flip him, because I think he fits with that team. So
I agree.
I don't think it's moved.
And if you're gonna move him, it's not gonna drastically change in the offseason. I mean, I don't think anything is gonna happen to D'Lo where his value would be less. Anybody that trades for D'Lo, you have total control of him, because he signed a 5-year contract with an option in the fourth, something like that.
Yep.
So if you trade for him, he's a young 24-year-old kid, massive talent, all-star. Ain't nothing gonna change if you wait till the offseason. There's nothing to rush to do. I mean, you want to see. I mean, they could theoretically wait till next trade deadline. I would want to see what I have with Steph Curry, D'Lo, Clay, Draymond, Pascal. I want to see those pieces together. And if it doesn't work at that point in time, then you make a move, because they're all assets. But
I still think it's more likely that Draymond gets moved before anybody else. The fact is, I know Draymond has been the heart and soul of that team, but we can look at Draymond over the last, really since 2016. Draymond Green is not the same player that he was, and it's not because he got paid. he's kind of broken down. I mean, he's not as fast. If you were to go back and watch Draymond Green in 2014, 15, 16, like that dude was fast. I mean, he was a problem, and he could shoot.
He got paid.
I don't think it's that he got paid. I just think that he's not the same player. When you're undersized and you're going against, you know, bigger dudes for years, eventually it's gonna wear on you. You know.
Well, I know one thing. If the Warriors end up getting the top 5 pick and they can get a big man, then Draymond's definitely probably going to be on the move. Because why do you need Draymond and you got 2 pure ball handlers that will probably be in the starting lineup?
Yep.
You got D'Lo and you got Curry in the starting lineup. So you don't need a Draymond. Is Draymond going to come off the bench? Or are you going to bring D'Lo off the bench? Is D'Lo going to be happy coming off the bench? Then you get into some issues. I don't think you need all of those passers on the court at the same time. Now, I don't know. I'm just interested to see how the Warriors look next year. I definitely think they're tanking this year. I think they're shooting. Sure. They're trying to get a pick.
For sure.
And it's crazy because with these new lottery rules, all they got to do is get in the area. They don't have to be the worst team. They just got to get within top 5, top 3.
This was the best case scenario, honestly. You know, it just if you're gonna get hurt, then and you know KD leaves, it was best case scenario for them, and they're gonna turn around. And, I mean, people have kind of written them off already. Like, yeah, the dynasty's done. It's like, man, I think them cats are going to be back. So
I think they're going to be back with a vengeance, too. Because, I mean, they just have too many assets. Right now, they're building value for assets to attach. Yep. You don't know what they can do. Because now Pascal's an asset. Now Kyle Bowman's an asset. Jordan Poole, these players that they have that they're just developing.
See, I don't know. Because people will look at that, and then you're like, everyone that's left Golden State, what's that cat in Minnesota? Jordan Bell.
Yeah, that's never stopped people before.
I mean, that's fair because all it takes is for you to hit on one. But everyone that's left Golden State has been trash.
Yeah, I mean, but still, like I said, Tim Hardaway Jr. still getting contracts.
Yeah. So Kevin Love's on the block. Kyle Lowry.
It's funny. We talked about that Kevin Love last week, and we both said that we thought Portland would be a good spot for him. And then the very next day, the report comes out that Kevin Love would prefer to be traded to Portland.
Yep.
I still don't know how that works, but I don't know how that works with Melo. That's the only thing. I mean, Melo's playing the 3. What are you trading? What are you sending? You know what I mean? It's got to be young assets in order to get Kevin Love. But where is he playing it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that you can keep Melo at the 3. Love's going to play the 4 or the 5, depending on the night and the matchups.
Defensively, look at that squad.
Oh, it's a lot. They're a liability completely on defense as long as Nurkic isn't there. No one on that team defends. So,
but even if you bring Nurkic back, I mean, Nurkic's going to stay in foul trouble. Nobody on that team can defend on the outside. Nobody.
That's going to be
at least before and I think they're missing that. Before they had Al-Farouq Aminu at the 4, they had Mo Harkless at the 4, they had defenders that can actually defend. But now they're just lining up with shooters and nobody's trying to play defense.
They went the exact opposite way. I mean, because you think about it, man. I get what Portland did because there's only so many times you can watch Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless. Man, there's only so many times you can watch these cats miss open threes and layups and shit, man. It's only so many times. So.
But that goes back to my feeling that there's a lack of appreciation for role players. Like getting rid of Myers Leonard. You know what I mean? Getting rid of Al-Farouq Aminu. And then you're seeing that now, and they're replacing it with Melo. Yes, Melo's doing well on offense. He's even showing some effort defensively. But that's not translating into wins. They were the 3rd best team last year. And it was because of Al-Farouq Aminu, Mo Harkless, Myers Leonard, their versatility, their depth.
But you know what? In the playoffs, them cats were terrible. And they've been terrible in the playoffs for years. And at some point, you know, you hear it every year. Every year Portland loses in the playoffs. It's like, well, we got to blow them up, break those 2 up, and Portland deserves credit for keeping their guys together. But also, again, in the playoffs, there's only so many times I can watch Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu go, you know, 1 for 13 combined, and you know, there's just only so many times you can do it because at some point you got to make some moves.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm saying is they went too far to the opposite. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to have some balance in between what you're doing. You can't trade all of them. You know what I mean? You got. I know Al-Farouq Aminu was the one that was going to leave because he was a free agent. You know what I mean? They weren't going to pay him.
They could have paid Mo Harkless.
Mo Harkless only had, this was a final year of his contract, I believe.
Yep.
And they traded Mo Harkless and Myers Leonard in order to get Hassan Whiteside, which I don't think is a good move for them because he doesn't defend, he doesn't set screens, he's lazy, and it hadn't really worked out. I mean, sometimes he has a good game where he really defends the rim, like if he plays the Suns and he gets 10 blocks. Sometimes he's just out there.
Yeah.
Empty stats. What you think about Kyle Lowry, man? We talked about this before. The emergence of Fred VanVleet and a lot of those young players. I think that it's the perfect time to trade Kyle Lowry, man.
Man, it's tough because on a personal level, he and Masai went through all that shit after the DeRozan thing. I think this is going to be a situation where the only way they trade Lowry is if Lowry wants to be traded.
He acted like he wanted to be traded last year until they won the title.
They won the title, and he and Masai made up, and he was like, I understand. I'd rather have a title than big forehead DeMar.
Shit, I mean, what you going to say? After you win a title, you're still going to be mad? But I'm going to tell you straight up like this. I don't like Kyle Lowry because when DeRozan left, they were doing that. He was doing that color purple shit by himself. You know what I'm saying? The hand clap shit, the whole pregame he used to do with DeRozan, and he would be like, so that shit rubs me the wrong way.
It was a little too much, a little too romantic.
Man.
But there's a couple places I'd like to see Kyle Lowry. I mean, we talked about it, Minnesota, Miami. There's places that I think if Kyle Lowry wants to be traded, that he will be in demand.
I think if they put him out there, because you got control of his contract, I said before, adding that extra year to his contract gives teams control. It's not a 1-year rental. Toronto can get better assets back. It's a bet. I think it's time, and I thought that was the whole reason why they added a year to his contract, because they were going to move on for him, and I don't see why they wouldn't. Norman Powell is playing extremely well. You got OG is playing extremely well, and you got Fred VanVleet. You know what I'm saying?
That's one thing that they need to credit. Usai Majiri and the rest of that Toronto organization, Nick Nurse. I mean, people give love to the Warriors, and deservedly so, but Toronto is that version of them in the East. They find talent everywhere, from the G League to to Africa, to literally everywhere. They have a system that works.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the new coaches movement. You're going to start seeing that. Nick Nurse was a winner in the G League, and now he's shown that he can come here and not only win, but he can develop talent, because that's what you're doing in the G League. You never know who's going to be on your roster from game to game. They could send 3 or 4 people down there. You have to put them in the roster. You have to put them in the game and play them. Then those people leave that night right before the game. You know what I'm saying? You never know what's going to happen, and I think that just makes you a better coach, because you have to be adaptable to whatever situation is going to happen. And Nick Nurse was very good down there. There's another coach that just got hired on, and he was like a champion in the G League too. I can't remember which one it was, but I think that's going to be the new movement. Team coaches that are successful in the G League, I think they're going to start getting a shot in the NBA.
Yep, I agree with you.
Now, I did hear a rumor, and I don't know what you think about this. Dennis Smith Jr. to the Timberwolves. Man,
something needs to happen, man, because Dennis Smith Jr. has too much damn talent to be wasting away with them clowns in New York. We talked about that. Might be one of those situations where that cat's confidence is broken. He played a lot last night, but the Knicks suck. I mean, and they're not good for anybody. They're not good at all.
They just put 140 up on Atlanta.
Yeah, I saw that. I was watching that game. I think they had 42 in the first quarter. Yeah. And that goes back to my point that I told you. Trae Young, when he's on the floor, Atlanta is the worst team in the league defensively. So as great as he is and as elite as he is on offense, he's such a liability on defense that the rest of the team is hot garbage and the worst in the league.
That's on the organization to put people around. You don't put Iverson out there for his defense. You know what I mean? You have to build around those players. If you can't build around your players,
and they will. Yeah, Atlanta's a young team. And they're probably too young. And my problem with Atlanta,
they're definitely too young.
Yeah, and my problem with Atlanta, like, I get the Vince Carter thing, but if you're playing Vince Carter in crunch time minutes, there's no point of even talking about Atlanta, because they've got a 42-year-old starting point shooting guard that's playing way too many minutes. I mean, there's stuff that you need for leadership, But trading Kent Bazemore made no damn sense because that's a guy that you need that can give you minutes. Taurean Prince, those guys can give you minutes without taking away from the development of the young guys. To have Vince Carter makes no sense.
Taurean Prince was in third year. They were out on Taurean Prince. They didn't believe in Prince. But Prince helped them defensively, but for some reason, they didn't like him. They weren't going to pay him, so they tried to get what they can for him. I agree. Bazemore was a good leader for them. He was a good role model for those players.
Correct.
I think they're missing him a lot. They're a lot more competitive, but I understand because they're trying to put their young people on the court, and they're like, fuck it.
And their young guys are performing well, but at the end of the day, like we said, Atlanta is and it's not just a Trae Young problem because, like I said, my thing with Trae Young, my fear with him down the road, unless they absolutely hit on Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter, and those guys are more than just role players. What the fuck is Trae Young gonna do with Ben Simmons if they make the playoffs? And that's the same issue that Kemba Walker has. Little guards in the playoffs have a lot tougher time. Kyle Lowry struggled for years in the playoffs because he's a little ass point guard. Chris Paul struggles, and when you can trap those guys, it's a different game.
Yeah, it's not even really about the trap. It's about the defensively. You can just always scheme to do a mismatch. That was a problem with Isaiah Thomas on the Celtics, why he didn't get the contract. Isaiah Thomas had an excellent year with the Celtics. Yep. Everyone thought it was a given that he was going to get a max contract. The reason why he didn't is when they got in the playoffs against LeBron, all they did was put his ass in pick and rolls on the backside. Just keep throwing it to LeBron because there's no way you can stop it.
And that's why people, typically try to stay away from little point guards. And again, I think Trae Young is an elite talent. You and I disagree on how elite, and we'll talk about Doncic here in a second. But I'll tell you, matter of fact, let's go to Doncic. I tell you, I may be wrong about how good Dallas, that supporting cast is, because they went in, they beat Milwaukee on a night where Giannis put up 48 points, and Dallas was just whooping their ass without Luka Doncic, who went down with an ankle injury. So they definitely
18-game win streak.
Yep. So I mean, Dallas definitely has a better team than I thought they would. I'm still going to wait to see how they go. What their overall wins losses is without Doncic, but clearly they're doing okay.
Well, this is what I talk about with the devaluation of role players. Like, we're always looking for these great players, and you got to surround them with a bunch of super team players. Sometimes you can win with just a good team and good players, and that's how Rick Carlisle won. The one thing about Rick Carlisle is he has a system where you have to buy in. And even before he got KP and Doncic, he has players on there that have already bought into his system. Jalen Brunson is a quality backup point guard. Doncic go out, he's still coming in getting 10 assists. You know what I'm saying?
DeLon Wright.
Yeah, DeLon Wright. He just came this year, but he's their type of player. That's the type of player that they need. Versatile, multiple positions. You got Kleber. You got Dwight Powell. You got Tim Hardaway Jr., Dory Finney-Smith. A lot of those players played a lot of minutes, starter minutes, to 2 years before Doncic got there. I mean, that was, you know what I'm saying? They've been playing in that system. So then you add an elite talent like Doncic and then put KP in there. For a little bit of nothing, all you did was get rid of the players you didn't want anyway. All they lost was Dennis Smith Jr., who they didn't want anyway, and DeAndre Jordan. They got him for nothing.
Well, so they traded Tim Hardaway and got him back.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Or did he come back over?
No, he came in that trade, that Doncic trade.
Okay, I couldn't remember how, because he left New York and went back to New York or something. I can't remember how that went down, but yeah.
Yeah, he left New York, went to Atlanta, and then.
But even to your point, he's been a starting shooting guard for the last 5 years.
He suckered the Knicks at about $66 million.
Yeah,
He was the man for about a year and a half. So but he's played quality minutes. Now he's just a role player. He took all those duties off of him and just said, "Hey, sit in the corner and hit threes. If you hit them, good. If you don't, just play good defense." You know what I'm saying? They have a quality team built around them. That Dallas team is better than I thought they were. I think they're gonna be better, just because of the skill set of Doncic. KP, he hadn't really hit his peak yet, but if he gets better and his offense, like, I think this is the stretch. This 3-week period, they need to find his game right now without Doncic on the court.
And I agree with you, because the one thing that isn't talked about Doncic, because of how amazing he is and has been, is that ball kind of stops sometimes with him, and he becomes sometimes he puts up too many shots. And I think it's if he shoots over 20 or 25 shots, they're like 7-6. But when he shoots under 25 shots, they're like 7-1. So.
I mean, it's great, it's spectacular, but what happens is in the playoffs, every time I'm looking at these teams, and when you become a contender, I start looking at what's going to happen in the playoffs. In the playoffs, when you start playing good teams, it's no more, hey, I got Dallas tonight, 3 days later I got Minnesota, then I got the Clippers on the back-to-back, I'm flying in. Now I'm just sitting and looking at how to stop your offense. And the number one thing is going to be stop Doncic. What happens after you stop Doncic? You know what I mean? And I want to see some of those other players get more consistent, like Tim Hardaway, KP. I need to see more offense, not just going through him. Because, it's incredible that he's triple-double and carrying them on their back. But, fuck, how long can you do that? I know he's young, but shit.
Yeah. he's basically been James Harden for Dallas.
But it took James Harden about 7 years to be able to carry that load and get your body right to do that. Yep. This is still Doncic's second year. I mean,
but Doncic
broke down last year.
He's been a pro for.
They played like 30 to 40 games.
That's fair.
Last year, in the second half of the season, he broke down. He was doing a lot of this last year early. I believe he can carry it longer, but what happens when he gets to playoff? That's an extra, 10, 12, 16 games? How far can he go? How much can he hold up on? We don't know.
Yep. Yeah, once you start getting into playing 80 and 90 games, or 90 and 100 games, you're right. Well, that'll be the tale. All right, man. Before we get to our main story, real quick, I want to touch on a situation that happened in Utah last year, where the Jazz ended up banning a fan for calling Russell Westbrook the N-word allegedly. That fan is back, and he is suing Westbrook and the Utah Jazz for over $100 million.
Yeah, and basically his stance is that he didn't say anything outside of what other fans were saying. So he's saying that he's not saying that. I mean, he's definitely saying that he didn't say what Westbrook said. He said Russell Westbrook said that he was saying, "Get down on your knees like you used to," and Russell Westbrook said that he felt that was racist. And then he said that he told Russell Westbrook, "You need to go ice your knees." You know what I mean? It's kind of. I feel like I side with Westbrook because Westbrook is high. He's very intense, intense person. But I'm pretty sure he hears a lot of things. I don't think he flips out if you hear "go ice your knees."
Right. Yeah. And.
There was an investigation also. Don't let that get dismissed. There was an investigation, and then he was banned. Russell Westbrook was fined $25,000, but he was banned after the investigation.
Yeah. So, his beef, whatever. Yeah, there's no way he sees $100 million. I don't think he gets shit, but...
Well, he's saying, I lost my job, this, they put me in the paper. He doesn't see $100 million. Do they settle with him, though? Do they let him in the stadium? Do they give him a year ban, a 2 year? I think a lifetime ban is excessive.
We'll see. I mean, now do you want that cat in the stadium?
I mean, you can't just be banning fans though, man. I don't know about that. I mean, you pay your money, everybody's heckling.
But you cross the line at some point.
But I personally think that that's one of the problems. It's the good thing about the NBA, and it's the bad thing too. Fans are too close.
They're way too close to the players.
Imagine what they say to football players. They say all kinds of shit to football players. You can't see it. You can't hear them.
I was at the Grizzlies Suns game last week, and I was 2 rows behind the Grizzlies bench, and
stunting.
Of course, had to watch Ja dunk on Aaron Baines. But I will say the fans in Phoenix were not bad. But you could just there was these 2 kids in front of me, and I call them kids. They were probably in their early 20s, but they were just yelling at Grayson Allen the whole time. Which fuck Grayson Allen, I yell at him too. I don't like him. But they were just yelling at him about Fortnite, calling him all types of shit, and nothing that was crossing the line. Grayson Allen was kind of smiling. They weren't being super disrespectful, just more irritating.
He is from Duke, so
yeah. I mean, he deserves whatever he gets. But
I was saying that he's trained and getting talked about. But yeah, that too. But had those fans crossed the line, it'd been what's a player supposed to do? Because next thing you know, if you got Ron Artest coming to whoop your ass, can't really be mad, can you? It's if I'd have said that, I wouldn't say that to him in their face. Yeah, and I mean, I think we're getting away from the malice at the palace. Last episode, we talked about the malice at the palace, and people were yelling a lot of stuff at players. Malice at the palace happened, and motherfuckers chilled out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. They might start whooping our ass now.
Yeah, now we're getting further away from that. Players are taking more. It's getting a little bit outrageous. There does need to be a line. I think maybe putting more security, not to in like different sections, just so you can start hearing some of the things that fans are saying. But at what point is it considered crossing the line? You know what I mean? Like, how can you police this on a regular basis? That's my thing.
I think anybody that's dropping the N-word, and being clearly racist, overtly racist, I think you should be banned from life. So, damn sure be banned from a basketball game.
Yeah, even with racist comments, I think everybody fuck up. But nothing, I don't think you should be banned for life from anything. I mean, that's like saying everybody that fuck up, you go to prison for life. You say the wrong word, you're banned for life.
Put them all in there. Lock them up. All right, man, let's get to the main segment. We wanted to continue the basketball evolution segment, and today we want to talk about the early 2000s Lakers and how pivotal they were to really how crucial they were to the NBA today. We don't really have a dynasty at the moment. The Warriors are kind of done. Toronto's not going to be a dynasty, so...
Hey, don't let Nick Nurse hear you say that.
Pascal gonna correct me real quick.
You already shitted on him once and was wrong.
I mean, that's fair. But you talk about the first dynasty of the new millennium, the first dynasty post Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. So here we are. I want to take you back to early 1999. Lakers are coached by... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, even before that, when I started looking into this, one thing that I really didn't realize is that for some reason I was thinking that the Lakers were bad before Shaq and Kobe.
No, they were just getting swept out the playoffs.
Yeah, they couldn't get over the hump. But
Utah was whooping their ass every year.
Yeah, but I should have known that because I used to. That was when I liked the Lakers. I liked the Lakers then because they had Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, Cedric Sabalas. Those players, Lottie Vidoc and his style. I liked that Lakers style, but they couldn't get over the hump. Dale Harris wasn't a bad coach. He couldn't control personalities. So that's the one thing I want people to understand, because I think other people may feel like I did, like kind of thinking like, oh, before Shaq and Kobe got there, the Lakers sucked. They did not.
No, they were good.
50-win team.
In 96, they traded for Kobe Bryant, the infamous trade with Charlotte that sent Vlade Divac and Eddie Jones to Charlotte, and Kobe
Eddie
Bryant.
Jones didn't go. That was just Lottie straight.
Oh, that's right. It was. You're right. Straight up for the 13th pick.
Yeah, and it's funny because people just say that out there, and the first thing you think is, oh shit, how could you do that? How could you trade Lottie for Kobe? Oh my god, everybody knew Kobe was going to be great. Understand that Kobe was the first guard to ever be taken out of high school. That wasn't a thing that was happening. I mean,
it was big men who were taken with Moses Malone in the 80s, Daryl Dawkins before that, then Kevin Garnett most recently. But to that point.
People weren't taking, as good as Kobe was and as good as people thought Kobe would be, people weren't taking guards out of high school.
And people didn't think Kobe was going to be Kobe. No one knew Kobe Bryant was. There's a reason he went 13th overall. No one thought that Kobe was going to be what he turned out to be.
Don't say no one.
Except for Jerry West.
Jerry West. So the story is that Jerry West brought in Kobe for a workout and had Michael Cooper, which Michael Cooper was Defensive Player of the Year, this guy. And at this point, he's older. But, Michael Cooper was considered lockdown. And Kobe just destroyed Michael Cooper and Larry Drew, just gave him the business to the point where Jerry West just shut the workout down after 30 minutes. I mean, he just killed those dudes. So Jerry West knew what he had. Jerry West always had an eye for talent. But what I was going to say about Charlotte is that deal was already made before Charlotte was even on the clock. You know what I mean? Like the Lakers didn't know that Kobe was going to be there. Like that deal was agreed to the night before.
And John Calipari wanted Kobe Bryant in New Jersey. They were going to take him. And I can't remember what happened now, but they could not agree with ownership, and basically they ended up just passing on him. and he fell all the way to 13.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make it clear that when you go back, you look at that, they said that deal was agreed on the day before. And they were also, it was kind of a backup plan. It was a win-win because Jerry West was angling to get Shaquille O'Neal. So they needed to move Lade anyway to free up some cap room. I think that move freed up about $3.3 million in cap space. Right then, the cap was around $24 million, and they needed to sign Shaq. So that freed up cap space too. And
that was part of what convinced Shaq to come to LA was the fact that, Jerry West kind of told him, and Shaq has said this isn't, inside information obviously, but that, hey, I've got this young guy, he's going to be one of the best players ever played this game. And, and Kobe had actually met Shaq before. Shaq and Penny, he always said that Shaq was nice to him and Penny was an asshole to him. Yeah. But he talked about how this kid that they just drafted is going to be great. And so Shaq ends up signing the deal. The first thing that he sees Kobe Bryant doing is working out, going through like actual game drills and game situations without a basketball. Yeah. And Shaq said he knew right then, he was like, oh, this dude's going to be special.
And Shaq says that's one of the reasons why he didn't train in the offseason. Like Kobe had that killer instinct, always wanted to be better, wanted to be Jordan, always training, always getting better. And Shaq was just like, man, they used to beat the shit out of me during the season. This kid's gonna train. I'm gonna chill at home. I'm gonna come back, and then I'm gonna rest up, and then mid-season when I get back to form, then they'll feed me the ball. But that's one of the things that kind of caused conflict between them because Kobe was like, I'm working my ass off. I'm killing the first half of the season. And then when Shaq gets up to speed, now I'm just supposed to defer to him. And he wasn't really built like that. But before we get too deep into that, I wanted to go and look into one of if we're going to talk about the post-Jordan era and the Lakers dynasty, we have to dive into one of the biggest mistakes by any franchise in history, losing Shaquille O'Neal. You know what I mean? They lost a player that I don't know if people know how good Shaquille was early in his career. I mean, in the first 3 years, Shaquille O'Neal was the Rookie of the Year. He had already won a scoring title. He was second in the MVP to Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, he was an elite talent. And
is always going to be known as the last player team to beat the Bulls in the finals.
Yeah, and he beat Jordan.
Oh, sorry, in the playoffs.
In the playoffs. And, he beat Jordan in the final. Now, he was just coming back. He didn't play the whole season. Blah, blah. He beat him. You know what I mean? Yep. It wasn't like Jordan that was his first game back. Jordan played, like 30 games?
Half the season. Yeah. Well, yeah. He came back right after Christmas, basically.
Yeah, so he played 30 games. He wasn't fully Jordan yet. He missed some shots that he probably would have made, but you still beat Jordan. You take that. So they had a team built that beat the Bulls, and you're looking at it like, shit, when the Bulls leave, we should be the next dynasty. If we're not the dynasty, we're competing to do that. So I want to look at how Orlando Magic lost Shaq, because I think that's an interesting story, because there's a lot of shit in there that it set up perfectly for them to lose Shaq or for them to be able to lock Shaq up.
And what really happened was Shaq basically wanted more money than Alonzo Mourning signed for. And I think they wanted to give they gave Alonzo Mourning like 120, and then they offered Shaq 110.
Shaq got 105, but it's worse than that. So first, let me go back. So in 1995, there was a small stoppage because of the restricted free agency. So this is big because only between 96 and 99 there was no restricted free agency. Restricted free agency is when you get a player and you draft them. You're supposed to have control of them for about 7 years. So even after their rookie contract, you still kind of control them because you have the ability to match. Because of that work stoppage in 95, there was no restricted free agency. That's big because if they had restricted free agency, when the Lakers came back with that 120, Orlando would have been able to match that contract. They weren't able to match it. But the reason why Orlando fucked up is because they could have wrote Shaq a blank check. At this point in time, there was a salary cap of $24 million, but the birds' rights was there. So you could go over your cap in order to sign a player. There was no luxury tax. So essentially, if Shaq said, I want $150 million, they could have just gave Shaq $150 million. They opened at like 6 years, $54 million. They way under...
They played it wrong.
Yeah, they played it totally wrong.
And meanwhile, Jerry West was He was like, we'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah, I think Jerry West first came in. Even when they offered him that, it was like a 4-year, $64 million, or 7 years. No, at that point they had 95, but he refused to take anything under 105 because Zoe and Juwan Howard had gotten 105.
You know, isn't it crazy that two of the weirdest, like the most unlikely things have affected NBA history at least twice. You know, the cap spike in 2016 is how Kevin Durant got to Golden State, and that was the only time that was ever able to happen.
Yeah.
And then now the same thing with Shaq. Shaq going to LA. So it's pretty crazy that probably swung 5 titles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because if they can match it, he stays in Orlando. He never leaves. Like, you can offer him whatever you. Essentially, you only have to offer him a contract. You say, go out there and see what deal you can get, and then you just match it. You know what I mean? The market sets itself. But
do the Magic become that dynasty?
Does Penny Hardaway get hurt if Shaq's still there?
That's going to be the thing. It all hinges on Penny either way. But yeah, but either way, Shaq now becomes a Laker. I mean, because even with Orlando, right? Nick Anderson was never the same after that series against the Rockets. Dennis Scott was starting to get a little too fat, and Horace Grant was getting too old. So
but I
there
mean,
would have been.
You probably. I wouldn't say that you signed those players, because after that, then it became, hey, we need to build around Penny. And then they start giving those players contracts just to keep the team together. I don't know that if you give Shaq, because at this time, remember, $100 million contract was unheard of. The cap was $24 million. Jordan got $30 million, which is $6 million over the cap.
Yep.
Bird rights. There was only $200 million players, which was Zoe and Juwan Howard. At that time, $100 million,
which is crazy to think about now.
Yeah, but Zoe was a beast then.
Oh no, I just mean Juwan Howard mostly.
Hey, man, the Heat almost had Juwan Howard on those cap rules. I think the Heat tried to sign Zoe and Juwan Howard at that time, and the contract got voided or some shit. But but at that point in time, $100 million contract was like 82% of the cap. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny? And we'll get back to Lakers in a second, but I want you being a Heat fan, and you talk about how the Heat are the best expansion franchise, and I agree with you. I think they are. But talk about Orlando. The luck, the misfortune of Orlando, basically their entire existence is.
It's not misfortune.
Is it? Because
it's bad management.
I don't think it is, because all right. So you lose Shaq, Penny goes down, and then you sign Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady, and you almost signed Tim Duncan. But Tim Duncan changed his mind at the last second. Grant Hill obviously gets hurt and is never the same again. And now you're just stuck with T-Mac. And then, of course, then you go through the Dwight Howard years. They tried to put help around him. They just never were able to manufacture it. So,
but I think all that is just a product of bad management. You had the best luck in history to get Penny and Shaq and have that team built. If you have the foresight, like Miami didn't care if that's the cap, they just went ahead and signed Zoe, the best player. It's no question if Zoe was the number 2 pick and Shaq is the number 1 pick and Shaq outplay, they're not even the caliber of Shaq. At that point, you have to pay him 120. Why not just say he wants 150? He's on record of saying, I want 150. I knew I wasn't getting 150. If you're Orlando, why don't you just say 120, 115? Yep. Anything over there, you lock them up. That's your bad luck. Penny getting hurt is bad luck. You're right. Then you go into the Grant Hill. They signed Grant Hill after
he got hurt. They took a gamble.
They gambled
and it didn't
on that
work
contract.
Out.
Then you get Dwight Howard. You never really put elite talent. And when you did, you put Stan Van Gundy. You never switched out the coach. I mean, Stan Van Gundy is a good coach to build a team. He's not a good coach to win. As soon as he left Miami, they won a title.
Yep.
Bad rotations, weird shit he's doing. You should have got a better coach in there.
So back to the Lakers. From 96 to 99, they're really just underachievers, right? They get swept by Utah, or they lose to Utah in 97 and 98, get swept in 98, and then they lose to, I think, Seattle in 99. They lost somebody fluky in 99, and this was just a team that they realized, okay, we need to make some changes. Phil Jackson, again, for whatever reason, the Bulls are hell-bent on blowing up their situation. Phil Jackson's a free agent. He leaves the Bulls, takes a year off from basketball, and the Lakers come a-calling. And now you've got a championship coach in his first year. they three-peat. So
yeah, and it was kind of crazy because you really fired a Dale Harris coach who was winning 50 to 60 games a year. I mean, when he got fired, Dale was 31-19. The problem with Dale Harris was he could not control the personalities. So he couldn't control Nick Van Exel and them before.
And Nick Van Exel was crazy as hell, to be fair.
Yeah, he couldn't control Nick Van Exel even before Kobe and them got
And they brought in Rodman for one of them years.
Not then. They tried, but they didn't bring in Rodman during that time. Rodman didn't come until Phil was there.
Did Phil bring him in?
Yeah, that was later. But yeah, so it's kind of crazy because Nick Van Exel was an all-star in like 97, but then he got into it and got suspended or something for arguing with Dale Harris in the playoffs. So they traded him after he was an all-star. Eddie Jones was an all-star in 98. They traded him after he was an all-star. That made more sense though because Kobe was coming into his own. You wanted the free minutes. But still, I mean, you got Glenn Rice, J.R. Reed, and B.J. Armstrong for Eddie Jones, who still went on to be productive because Eddie Jones was a part of that Miami Heat team that won. He had like 4 or 5 years where he was still productive. And you let him go for nothing. So
Glenn Rice, by the way, was on the tail end of his career.
Yeah, I'm talking about
the Lakers.
Fat Glenn Rice.
Yeah, you talk about crazy. They got Glenn Rice and Mitch Richmond like the last years of their career, and
that's why I'm saying Lakers been kind of making some bad moves and just lucking up for a while.
Yeah, when you have 2 of the 15 best players of all time, and when you have Shaq in 2000, Shaq ran into some very fortunate timing from 2000 to 2002 because there were no other dominant centers. David Robinson was on his last leg. Hakeem was gone. Ewing was gone.
Adi Vida.
Yeah, but you look at the same knock that I give Jordan. It's like, well, you look at the players that he played in the finals. He never played a caliber. The difference that teams that LeBron played in the finals and Jordan played in the finals, there's no question that Warriors team is better than anybody that Michael Jordan ever played in the finals.
Yeah, but it's only if you're looking at it as finals teams. If you stop looking at it as finals team and you look at it as the Western Conference Finals, then he did. He played against Tim Duncan twice, and he played against the Sacramento Kings.
But then he got to play against Todd McCullough in the finals and feast off him.
Yeah, but we all knew whoever won the Western Conference Finals was going to win the finals.
That's fair. But, and that's not to take away from Shaq, but Kobe really came into his own in the year 2000, and a lot of that is because of Phil Jackson, but also Kobe been in the league 4 years. And he finally had ascended.
And that's like the tension that was between them between 96 and 99, that was the tension of knowing that they need to win. I mean, there's a quote of Shaq saying 96 and 99 was like the worst time in his career because there's so much pressure on you to win. He didn't want to be known for a player that didn't win. He said that at one point in time they had that they were talking about how great he is, how much of a winner he was, and Kareem came and said, well, he's never won a title, so is he a winner? And Shaq said that stuck with him. And that tension was just building between him and Kobe because he was being told that Kobe's so great, but you got to wait on him to develop. And Kobe was saying, I know that he didn't want to wait on me to develop, so I needed to do it now, and that caused tension between the two. But he did come into his own in 2000, which was great for the team. But they were still having trouble with Phil. It wasn't a smooth ride that year, that 2000.
No. But I want people to know, for our young listeners out there who may have just seen 24, Froby with them ugly ass Adidas, and the hair, that was number 8 was a bad dude.
Kobe Bryant might be one of the best. I mean, it's between him, Vince, and maybe Dominique Wilkins, the best in-game dunkers of all time.
The thing about Kobe is he's like, yes, he's 6'6", but he is not as athletically gifted as Vince Carter. Like, he's not a jumper like Vince Carter. He's not as big as Michael Jordan. Like, Michael Jordan's a big dude. You look at their hands.
Big. I would question the jumping thing because
no, nobody can jump with Vince. I don't think anybody can jump.
But if you're saying Vince Carter, no. But I'm saying athletically.
But I'm saying Kobe was athletic, but you can look at the bodies, man. I mean, he was not built the way those other two dudes were. But Kobe, I agree with you. I'll never forget him dunking on Kevin Garnett and Latrell Sprewell, going under the rim and just baseline and just bamming on the whole team.
Yeah.
I mean, for those young people that think, I mean, and I'm on record saying I think Kobe's place in history is a little overrated, but number eight, that man was a bad dude. That was the baddest dude walking.
Yeah, I would never say that. I think that's completely crazy. But
I don't think Kobe's a top 5 player. Is my point. I think
def-
he's top 10.
Okay.
I don't think he's top 5.
We can debate top 5 as long as you know that he's top 10. I can live with that.
Yeah.
But in 2000, that first title, and like we said, even in 2000, they had going against Reggie Miller and that Pacers team. That was probably one of their toughest finals matchups. But,
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
But
And we talked about that last week.
Yeah, but every time in the Western Conference Finals, in the Western Conference, they had legit competition. That lob that you see, people don't understand the context of that Kobe Bryant lob to Shaquille O'Neal. They don't really understand how important it was that, because that Blazers team was dominating them that game. It didn't look like that they were going to win. They came back, and that was kind of the icing on the cake. They were down 17 points going into the fourth quarter. Yeah, that was the seal the deal type thing. But people didn't think that they were going to beat that team. I mean, that team was really good. Jermaine O'Neal, Scottie Pippen, Sabonis,
Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, Rasheed
Damon
Wallace.
Stoudemire. Scottie Pippen.
Detlef Schrempf. You
Yeah,
remember
I mean
there?
the Trailblazers in the early 2000s. That was a good Zach Randolph in his early years.
Zach wasn't on that team yet. I think they got him the next year. Stacey Augman, Brian Grant was on that team.
That's right. You're right.
Bonzi Wells. They had Bonzi Wells, the mid-range king. You know what I mean? That was a really good team. Bonzi Wells was the other young cat that you were thinking about, because you think they had a bunch of young teams. They had Greg Anthony on that team, Plastic Man, Stacey Augman. That was a defensive team, and that was a very, very good team.
Was that I think they had Sean Kemp one of those years.
Not that year. They didn't
was
have
Kemp, because the Trailblazers basically had a 2-year run where they were good.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s. And then the Kings took their place in the next year.
At one point in time, the Trailblazers had Jermaine O'Neal, Rasheed Wallace, and Zach Randolph all on the team at the same time. Now
that's when they became the Jailblazers, though.
Yeah, Jermaine O'Neal and Rasheed Wallace Rasheed Wallace was a veteran. Jermaine O'Neal was still really young.
They drafted him out of high school.
Yeah, he was a really young kid, but yeah, they were the Jailblazers. Getting
Yep. But yeah, I like you said, that Portland Trailblazers team was real, and they were title favorites.
Yeah.
Because that was the year that they got Scottie Pippen from Houston. And Scottie Pippen was still really good. I mean, his back was still an issue, but I mean, what they did in free agency, bringing in Scottie Pippen, bringing in Detlef Schrempf from Seattle. I mean, Indiana, they had a really
Sabonis,
good team.
Even at 40% of what he used to be, Sabonis
couldn't move at all, but
dude.
he was a knockdown. Oh yeah, he was. Again, for you young bucks out there who don't know anything about Arvydas Sabonis, back in the day in the 80s, they thought that he was going to be the greatest basketball player to ever play.
Didn't he beat Team USA damn near by himself?
Yes, that dude was incredible. He is the reason the Dream Team came about.
Yeah.
So you go back and you look at that team, and yeah, that was a great team, and the Lakers finally got over that hump to go to the finals.
Yeah, I remember Shaq said after winning that, he thought all the pressure was off. He went down, sat down, and then the day after, they were like, well, can they win another one?
Can they win another one?
Yeah.
And then here comes Sacramento, who's building a nice young team. They get Chris Webber in a trade. They've got Mike Bibby in a trade. Even Jason Williams they had to contend with.
Yeah, Mike Bibby was the guard, the Vancouver guard that got traded. That I was talking about last time. I think they traded Terrell Brandon to get Mike Bibby. And then you've got Doug Christie, who was a really good defender. You had Bobby Jackson, Vlade
Divac. You had Peja Stojakovic, who's one of the best shooters in history.
Hedo Turkoglu.
And then you had
young Gerald Wallace.
Yep. Then you had, of course, one of the best to ever do it, Brad Miller. I mean, that guy was a killer. But yeah, so you had really, really good teams that the Lakers had to contend with in the West. Not to mention, we haven't even talked about the Spurs.
And I believe that the Kings should have won Game 6. I mean, we all know about the scandal where they talk about the referees were told.
Tim Donaghy
scandal said that the referees were told to kind of put the Lakers in there. That's going to be one of the stains of David Stern's career forever.
No doubt about it.
That's all.
And you can find the NBA games damn near anywhere. You can't find Game 6 of the 2001 NBA Final or NBA Western Conference Final anywhere.
It was awful. I mean, if you remember even with all those calls going against Sacramento Kings, they were still a tipped ball away. From winning in Sacramento. Game 6, they win that game. I don't know I mean, there's a potential that Shaq or Kobe gets traded after that because there was big tension every year. The only thing that kept them together was that they were winning.
Yep.
They lose then. I mean, I don't know. Because then in 03, Kobe has the case,
rape
right?
case.
The rape case. So 02 you lose. 03 he has a rape case.
Well, yeah, 03 he gets the rape case.
I think that might have been at the end of. No, that was at the beginning.
It was.
Of 03.
No, it was the end of 03 because 04 is when they brought in everybody and Peyton was siding with Kobe and Malone was siding with Shaq. So
Karl Malone says something tells his wife or something. Karl Malone, big hater.
Said he's hunting Mexican girls or something like that. Karl Malone. And let me tell you something. Karl Malone's one of the dirtiest motherfuckers in the history of the game, and he was just a rotten dude. Just a real Karl Malone his rookie year, I think he was like 20. He ended up knocking up a 12-year-old girl, and he didn't pay. He refused to pay child support, acknowledge daughter, anything. And you know who that daughter is? Swing Cash. So. It's crazy that anyway, Karl Malone, piece of shit. I don't ever root for Karl Malone, but
I've always said that I believe Karl Malone is one of the most overrated players in the NBA, and I'm in the minority, but I know it's not a pure calculation. You look at John Stockton's assists, and you look at Karl's numbers. That shit's almost equal.
Yep. So you go and the Lakers win 3 in a row. And they went to 4 finals in 5 years.
I think they lost to San Antonio on wasn't that a last second shot or something? Robert Horry maybe?
Yep. Lost San Antonio in 03. Spurs go and they're in the middle of starting their own dynasty. Yeah. So they come back, they rebuild in 04 and they bring in.
That was the odd year championship Spurs.
Yep. Every odd year the Spurs are winning it, except 01. Yeah. But you come back and you bring in Karl Malone, you bring in Gary Payton, who, one thing that people don't understand, while the triangle was very innovative and obviously was very successful, if you've got a great point guard, it kills. I mean, I remember watching Jason Kidd trying to run the triangle in Dallas, under Jim Clemens, and it was terrible. Yeah. If you've got a great open floor point guard, the triangle's awful. So Gary Payton was a bad fit. He and Phil Jackson didn't get along. Phil Jackson didn't play him. Malone gets hurt, and that's kind of the end. Shaq is at the end of his career, he played another 18 years, but he's at the tail end of his prime, and the Lakers really have to choose between him and Kobe. And Kobe was threatening to go to the Clippers at that time.
The Bulls.
And he almost signed a deal.
I thought he was going to the Bulls.
Clippers.
It was Clippers?
Yep. In 03-04, he said he was going to sign with the Clippers. And the Clippers to this day are still convinced that the Lakers offered him like a piece of the franchise or something because he did a 180. They were convinced he was coming.
I thought that was the Bulls. When he was trying to demand the trade to get to the Bulls?
That was in 07. That was when they got Powell.
I got you.
Yep. So the Lakers, they trade Shaq, and Phil Jackson pretty much guaranteed. He was like, well, if you got Shaq, Phil Jackson wanted to keep Shaq. Phil Jackson was Team Shaq all the way. Him and Kobe did not. I mean, you read the last season by Phil Jackson, and he eviscerates Kobe Bryant.
And remember that Phil Jackson used to fan the flames of their. Like, Phil Jackson believed that built the team up. I don't know, but he used to say shit in the media and keep Kobe and Shaq at odds on all times. I guess he feels that they can work through it through the season. It doesn't come a problem in the playoffs or what. But he was notorious for fanning the flames between them.
Yep. And, people will when the Kobe haters will hate and say, you won 3 titles with Shaq, but will completely dismiss that Shaq won 3 titles with Kobe. They don't win 3 titles without each other. I mean, they were both averaging 30 points in the finals. And if you really want to get down to it, in that Indiana finals in 2000, they won that because of Kobe. Shaq was in foul trouble a lot of that, ended up fouling out of a crucial game 6, and Kobe took over.
Yeah, Shaq pretty much says that. I mean, he said that's when he really started to respect Kobe, is when he went out in Indiana. I think he fouled out of that game 6 game, and he thought it was over, and Kobe just took over and just destroyed Reggie Miller. You know what I mean? He owned Reggie Miller, but I don't think people realize how good Kobe was during those first 3. And that was really the root, and like we talked about earlier, that was the root of the dissension between the two, because Kobe was always working to get better. And once that dynasty started, 2000, 2001, 2002, the first half of those seasons, Kobe was the man. I mean, Kobe showed his potential because Shaq never came back in shape.
And he was dealing with toe injuries. He was going to go get surgery.
But I mean, he would come back even without that. He said he came back out of shape. He didn't train or nothing.
He's got the famous line, I got hurt on company time, I'm a heel on company time.
True.
And that is what pissed Kobe off the most. But again, for you young listeners out there who don't understand how good number 8 was,
bad boy.
I mean, please go do yourself a favor and go watch Froby.
I think Kobe goes to the Hall of Fame. If 2003 he gets kicked out the league, Kobe still goes.
Yeah, if he never played if he ended up going to prison for rape, he still was going to be a Hall of Fame.
If he go to prison, they ain't going to put him in there just cause. You know what I mean?
They would have like, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, but you can't. It's a bad look. Sorry, but so let's get to that, right? So the Lakers go through complete turmoil. Yeah. They fire Phil Jackson. They
did they fire him or did he quit after they?
They did not renew Phil Jackson's contract. Yeah. Kobe is going through a rape trial. Now, keep in mind, Kobe Bryant during this time is averaging, what did he go, 9 straight games of 45 points or more?
That was after. That was during Phil's time. That was when they lost to the Spurs or lost to the Pistons.
No. That's what I'm saying. This is during the rape trial. I mean, this is after. Talk about incredible.
Well, you said the trade. The trade didn't happen until after the Pistons. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So Kobe goes incredible, goes insane. The best player in the NBA.
He's flying back and forth from Colorado every single day, and he's putting up 45. Like, he's playing for his life. But they trade Shaq. Shaq ends up
after they lose to the Detroit. After they
lose to the Pistons. And you know what? It was time. Because they just could not coexist anymore.
And
Shaq goes on.
I want to touch on that. You made a good point. Is the triangle worked because they didn't have a good point guard? No, not a good point guard. They didn't have a traditional point guard that handled the ball. All Phil Jackson's point guards were specialists. Like, you had a Ron Harper who was a defensive specialist, knocked down threes. You had a John Paxson, Steve Kerr, Brian Shaw, Derek Fisher. You had players like that, but you didn't have a pure point guard, and that's what ended up biting them in the ass against the Pistons, because the Pistons played on that. They pushed everything out, and they didn't have a pure point guard to break down the defense. You only had Kobe, but Kobe ain't passing the ball. He breaks down that defense. He's shooting.
Every time.
I do all this work to pass. Nah, Shaq ain't getting this ball.
And again, you and I have talked about that Pistons team is one of the best teams and it's probably the most underrated team in NBA history.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out what made the triangle great is what the Pistons exploited in the triangle, is that they didn't have they didn't have any other ball handlers. No other ball handlers on the floor. It was only Kobe was the only ball handler.
Yep. So then you go, and the Lakers, they bring in Rudy Tomjanovich. Kobe Bryant's averaging 36 points a game.
And Rudy's used to playing with team player guys. Like
now he's playing with Chris Mim, Brian Grant, and just a whole shit show of players.
Don't disrespect Brian Grant. Caron Butler had a good year that year, but Kobe did not get along with Rudy T.
And so you end up... the Lakers, basically for 3 years, are either not making the playoffs or getting bounced in the first round by the Suns.
Well, it's funny because Rudy T only coached for 43 games in 04 and 05. That's why I said they didn't fire Phil, because Rudy T only coached like half that season. Then I think Kurt Rambis came and coached. Kurt Rambis convinced Phil Jackson to come back.
So
Phil only took a year off. with Rudy T, Kurt Rambis. Kurt Rambis convinced Phil to come back, and then 05 and 06, Phil comes back, and that's when they lose in the first round. In 07, Kobe's frustrated.
And he demands the trade.
Demands the trade to Chicago. They get on. They make that deal for Paul Gasol, which Greg Popovich calls the worst trade in NBA history.
But that's just him being a hater, because he at the same time. Now, no one knew that Marc Gasol was going to turn out to be as good as Marc Gasol was.
Bro, I just want you to. I want you to not think that you don't know how good Paul Gasol. I mean, you don't know how good Marc Gasol is going to be, right?
Correct.
And you're Greg Popovich, and you hear that Paul Gasol, who's an all-star player and in his prime, gets traded to the Lakers for. Hold on, I had it written down. What? It was Marc Gasol, Kwame Brown. No, it was Kwame Brown. Jarvis Crittenden,
and then what turned out to be Marc Gasol.
Hold on, that's not it. They signed Aaron McKee that day to add him to the package. 2 first-round picks in 08 010, and the rights to Marc Gasol, who nobody has seen because he's like an 18-year-old high school player in Spain. Nobody's seen him. Jerry West has. This is another Jerry West thing.
Well, so Jerry West saw him because Marc Gasol grew up in Memphis, and he and Jerry West's son played together at Lausanne.
At this time, Jerry West is in Memphis.
Yep.
He wants to do Kobe a favor, in my opinion. You know what I mean? He does a Laker-friendly trade because nobody knew what Marc Gasol was going to turn out to. Definitely talented, but they essentially gave the Lakers what they needed to get back on top. Greg Popovich was pissed. He was pissed.
Oh, he was. And he was like, people shouldn't be helping the Lakers and this, that, and the other. And, I mean, he had a good point. From a competitive standpoint, it was a bad look. And then, the Lakers are back all of a sudden.
And just for FYI, those picks turned into Dante Green and Grievous Vasquez.
Man, I like Grievous, though. He was not a quality NBA player, but man, I had hopes for Gravis. I was like, this dude is going to be.
He was excited
Maryland
in college.
That dude was out getting a triple-double damn near every night.
Yeah, that was at the height of the was that the ACC at the time? Yeah, that was the height of the ACC where they was putting out players. I think Juan Dixon started the ACC revolution. You know what I mean?
Boy, I'm telling you, Grievous Vasquez, I mean, it's funny to laugh about now, but that dude, he was
a bad
good.
Dude in college. I mean, he wasn't that bad in the NBA. He just had he had some kind of weird injury.
He ended up I think it wasn't a knee injury. I think it was his labrum. Same thing that Johnny Flynn hurt.
It's something that still gives him pain today, because I just saw him recently talking about that every day of his life he's in pain or something.
I think he tore his labrum. Same thing with Johnny Flynn. Like, Johnny Flynn wasn't a bust. He tore it. It's the same thing that ruined Isaiah Thomas' career.
Yeah.
So,
questionable.
But
Johnny Flynn might have still been a bust.
Yeah, maybe. But the Lakers are back. They run into the Celtics, and so in terms of the NBA,
they drafted Bynum in 05. That's part of it too.
Bynum was the last high school player to be drafted.
Lamar Odom came over in the Shaq trade, so he was a carryover from that. They fucked up trading Caron Butler for Kwame Brown, but it worked out.
God, yep. So, I mean, and now you got a Lakers finals team who go to three straight finals, and you could argue that they could have lost 2 of those, or you could argue that they could have won all 3. And really cementing Kobe's place in history. I mean, Kobe went to 7 finals. He won 5. He won without Shaq. He won 2 without Shaq.
He got a lot of flack, though, that first year they went to the finals to play the Celtics. Because even though they went to the finals, I think the Celtics blew them out by 17 or some crazy.
They beat them by 40 something in Game 6.
They beat the shit out of them. So Kobe had to come back that next year and deal with that. And unfortunately, he didn't even get a chance to see the Celtics because Kevin Garnett got hurt. Orlando Magic ended up winning. So he had to wait till 08-09 to get his rematch.
2009, 2010.
2010.
Yeah. And that like I said, we've talked about it. I'm not convinced that the Lakers, if they were healthy, if they had Bynum and Ariza in 07, 07, 08, that they don't win that finals, because if you remember correctly, the Lakers were up damn near 20 every game, and they blowing the lead. They kept blowing leads. And then, of course, now the Celtics come back. They're like, well, we didn't have Perkins in 2010. And it was like, well, whatever. Hey,
you're going to respect Perkins. Perkins was the elite defender.
But the argument is the same. The Lakers weren't healthy in 08. The Celtics weren't healthy in 2010. So
but
let
then
me ask you,
kind
though.
of get into this. Oh, go ahead.
The early part of the 2000s, that Lakers squad underachieved. If I told you in, I don't know, if I told you in the year 2000, 2001, after their first title, if I'd have told you that the Lakers over-under for titles was 4, would you take the over or the under?
Under, because I didn't know that because you got to remember, that tournament, I didn't know that they were going to last. Like, every year they were in the news about Kobe, Shaq, fighting, the turmoil, everything that was going on in that organization. I would say it's probably a miracle that they got through 3 titles.
But I think America would have chosen the over. I mean, there were people talking about the Lakers are going to win 7 or 8 titles.
Yeah, but that's dependent on them being able to stay together. Like I don't.
But we know that now.
Never a comfortable time during that period.
We know that now, but we always just. But you assume that winning championships cures all, and that Phil Jackson cures all. So, if I had told you in 2000 that the Lakers were going to win 3 titles, that Lakers team with Shaq and Kobe, if you'd told me that, I'd been like, only 3? No, there ain't no way. I think they win 5.
Yeah, but you got to also remember, after they won that's what I'm saying. That's kind of hindsight, because when they won in 2000, it was like, I don't think it was till that playoff run in 2001 that we started thinking, oh shit. Because when they won,
and that was the best team and they only lost 1 game, and that was when AI went nuclear.
Yeah, because like in 2000, I mean, they beat Portland, Reggie Miller and them they were still a beatable team. But then when they got to the playoffs in 01, and they were just kind of blowing people out.
They swept everybody.
Sweeping them. It wasn't even close. I think at that point, if you'd have asked me then, I'd be like, shit, yeah, over 4. 2000, I'd probably been like, I don't know. But in 01, you're right. Because that was like, shit. This team is unbeatable.
This might be the greatest team of all time.
Like, I don't know if anybody beats this team. I mean, even though, like, Iverson gets respect for beating them. It wasn't like they lost. Like, Iverson beat them. He gets all his respect just because he beat that team. Because he was not supposed to. Because even when Iverson scored 48, he had to give his
51.
all. Oh, 51. He scored 51, but he had to give his all to do that. Because they came back and they were on his ass.
Yep. And that 01 Lakers team, I think, is still probably one of the 3 greatest teams of all time. I think that 2018 Warriors team is probably the best team I've ever seen. You can make an argument for the 98 Bulls, being in that category.
Was the 18 Warriors team the one that was one? Yeah, you're right.
That was the first KD team.
The first KD team, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, that 01 Lakers team. I mean, oh boy! But do you think they underachieved or overachieved?
What about the 69 win Pacers team? They're not on your list?
Hell no.
When even in hindsight, I think it even more makes me believe that they overachieved. Because when you really hear, like, I was listening to that interview the other day, and Shaq said that first fight was in '99 before they even won a title in a pickup game during the lockout. You know what I mean? So I mean, you don't really get through as many years as they got through. I mean, they lasted 5 years, like fighting in the media, fighting in practice. Like, you have to be great talent to even deal with that, because most teams, they're not going to put up with that much turmoil in the organization. And they had some really good old role players, and Phil Jackson's staff with Tex Winter and all those old dudes that could just handle that. But as you can see with Rudy T and Dale Harris,
you got to be built a certain way to handle that.
Yeah, you got to be built. And it's just so happened that Phil was the right person to handle that situation. Any other coach, I don't know that they even win 3 titles. They may only win 1. Maybe.
I agree with you. I agree with you on everything, except for I think that the Lakers underachieved for that. As the talent that they had, that meteoric rise, I think they underachieved. I still think that they could have and should have won 5 titles if either one of them could have put their ego aside.
See, I just look at Orlando Magic. I feel that way because it wasn't turmoil then. It was just the Magic fucked that up. But they liked playing with each other. I feel like that's a team that underachieved because. But
no, you say that, but you remember, like, Shaq was jealous of Penny.
Oh.
Like when Penny was doing Sprite commercials and you had Little Penny, Shaq hated that shit. And that was a big part of the reason that he and Kobe didn't. I mean, yeah, of course, Kobe hated that he wasn't in shape, that he didn't give it his all. But also, Shaq hated when Kobe got any shine because he felt like he was the best ever.
I think we also have to remember that Jordan changed it where big man wasn't appreciated in the 90s. So that was a big part of what was going on. People didn't feel like big man was marketable because Jordan, Jordan Nikes, Jordan, that was popular. You didn't feel like you could market a shoe. Like, none of Shaq's shoes sold out.
Big men don't sell shoes.
Big men don't sell shoes, and that's what it was all about in the 90s. Who's marketable? I mean, Penny could sell shoes. He got, like, one of the highest selling shoes
People
ever.
still buying pennies to this day.
Yeah, and then you had the Sprite commercial, you had the Little Penny commercial. Part of the reason that all the shit went down with Shaq was because they were trying to make sure that they were flexible enough on the cap to be able to sign Penny. Now that still goes back to stupidity because there was no luxury tax. The Lakers never hesitated because they didn't care about spending the money. Orlando's considered a small market town, but they should have just went over the cap. Like, they literally could have offered Penny $150 million and Shaq $150 million because there was no luxury tax at that time.
So that's going to kind of wrap us up. I think the Lakers in the early 2000s underachieved. That new dynasty, I wouldn't even consider the late 2000s Lakers a dynasty, really. I mean, they went to 3 straight finals.
You three-peat, you got to be a dynasty.
They went to 3 straight finals. So, and they won 2 of them back to back.
They went to 4 and 5 years.
And the early 2000 Lakers were definitely a dynasty, no doubt.
Oh, you're talking about the
dynasty.
late. My bad, I misunderstood. That late one, that wasn't a dynasty.
But just a really good team.
Good team, I mean, but if you say that, would you say that the Pistons wasn't a dynasty? Because if you say the Lakers aren't a dynasty, would the Pistons be a dynasty?
You mean the 80s Pistons?
Yeah, they only won 2.
No, I don't think they were a dynasty.
Okay.
I mean, because now I think that had Isaiah Thomas not gotten when Isaiah Thomas got hurt and they lost to the Lakers, I do think that the Pistons, had that not happened, they three-peat. And people don't realize that late 80s Pistons team, god damn. I mean, the reason Michael Jordan didn't get anywhere before the 90s was because that Pistons team and those Celtics teams were very, very, very good.
Also because you were allowed to clothesline motherfuckers in the lane, too.
That's fine. But guess what?
I mean,
the Pistons were making... Magic was considered a pretty boy, and them boys making it to the finals every year.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you couldn't clothesline somebody in the lane, they not stopping Jordan. And let's just be real. Jordan might have won 10 championships because he definitely goes in, 89? if they can't,
he needed Scotty, man, and Scotty wasn't Scotty until 1991.
So it was the year before they went to the finals. That year before that
was 90.
90. Okay, so then in 90,
sorry, the Bulls went to the finals in 91. Scotty became Scotty in 1990. He was still a middling rookie until about then.
Well, I'm saying then they win the championship. I'm saying that the Bulls win the championship in 89, 90 if they can't clothesline Jordan every time he drives to the hole.
I don't know, man.
They had the Jordan rules, man. You couldn't go to the hole. That was literally their plan. Their plan was every time he drive, put him on the ground.
I'm not sure they beat the Lakers that year.
That's questionable.
I mean, maybe they get there, but I'm not sure they beat the Lakers.
If they beat the Pistons, why wouldn't they beat the Lakers? The Pistons beat the Lakers.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I'm not sure they beat the Lakers. I don't know. But yeah, man, so that's what we got. Next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the Spurs. And what they mean to the NBA and what they meant to the NBA in the early 2000s. And when you talk about underrated, I still think Tim Duncan is underrated.
It's his style of play. It's that boring style. I don't think he gets nearly the respect that Shaq gets, and he was probably a better player in the 2000s than Shaq. I mean, you look at Duncan's resume, he outplayed Shaq.
I have him. I mean, everyone talks about their top whatever. I don't think Shaq's in the top 10. I think Tim Duncan's in the top 10.
You don't think Shaq's in the top 10?
I think Shaq's like probably 12.
You're fucking nuts.
I think he's probably 12. 11, 12, somewhere in there. You could probably talk me into 10.
After we get done with this this basketball revolution, we're definitely digging into your top 10 because I want to see
summertime.
Yeah, I need to see the motherfuckers on there because we disagree a lot on that.
Listen, if your top 10 doesn't include Bob Cousy, we ain't even got to talk about it.
You got Bob Cousy. What was that motherfucker that played for the Minneapolis Lakers that they think is...
George Mikan?
George Mikan's probably number 2 on your list.
If your top 10 ain't got George Mikan on it, don't even bother, all right?
Wow.
Basically, other than Michael Jordan, my top 10 don't include anybody that played after 1968.
Havlovich number 5.
Hey, don't disrespect Hondo, man. Sam Jones, all right, Oscar.
Wow.
All right, y'all. So we're gonna get out of here. Let us know what you think about the Lakers dynasty. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, the local Twitter, whatever you need to get us at.
Yep, that's it. That's all.
Peace.
Last time that I checked, it was 5 chains on my neck. It was no smut on my rep. Last time that I checked, I was selling zones in the set. Make $250,000, no sweat. Last time that I checked, I'm the streets voice out west. Legendary self-made progress. Last time that I checked, first you get the money, then respect, then the power.